Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas, and welcome to Light Talk. Today we're discussing excessive thank yous, learning the hog, carbon art, Followspots, all today on Light Talk.
And good morning, this is Stan in Gainesville, Florida, and it's Saturday, and you are listening to Light Talk.
And this is David from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers. Welcome to episode 136. Hey, wasn't that a great conversation we had last week with Tom Littrell?
Absolutely.
Hey, what a nice guy. He's just so great. He is truly a mensch. You know, a lot of people in this industry are. Yeah, it was great to have him. And if you haven't listened to that amazing interview, because he talks a lot about, the genesis of Verilight. Genesis of Verilight.
That's funny. That's very punny.
And also the development of the LED LECO, and the source for LED and stuff like that. A lot of really interesting thoughts that he has.
From the inside of Tom Littrell.
Inside. So that's episode 135. Go check it out on lighttalk.org. And but today we have a great show, and we welcome Stan back to the normal shows.
Hey,
hi, Stan.
Thanks for having me back. I don't think I've ever had that long a hiatus, but it's the shank of the semester and getting sick and traveling, and so thank you to my colleagues Ann and Brackley for stepping up to the plate and filling in for me. I appreciate it.
You owe Brackley a couple of drinks at LDI.
At least. Maybe even a lobster tail.
And speaking of LDI, we're like a week away from it.
I'm getting my index cards and Sharpies ready for people to write questions for us at LDI.
Well, great. That's what we need. And the good news is that the swag is arrived. It's sitting on your bed, Stan, so you're going to have big boxes.
That's funny. At Brackley's house? Oh, that's funny.
At Brackley's
house. I'll keep it warm under the blanket.
That's right. And we have our Light Talk banner. It's all there. So we're really excited. Oh, I'm not going to make it this year. I might as well tell everybody that.
What?
No, I've got two shows I'm doing. I'm doing a show at USC and a show in Palermo.
Too busy. You're too busy.
And let me tell you something. I am tired of hearing about there not being enough jobs out there for people because I've been trying to...
You have them all, David.
No, that's not true. I've been trying to hire assistants, and they're nowhere to be found. They're all working. All my ex-students are working. All of Ann's students are working.
The economy is booming, even the theater.
Before we get started, Steve has an announcement about behind the scenes. What's up, Steve?
I didn't know about behind the scenes until I had dinner with Brad Schiller last week. He was in town, and he was telling me about this. And behind the scenes is an interesting foundation that helps people who work behind the scenes out. Let me give you their mission statement. Behind the Scenes Charity issues grants to entertainment technology professionals in need due to serious injury or illness that may be used for basic living, medical, or funeral expenses. It works closely with related industry charities and social service organizations to assist clients to the fullest extent possible. The foundation raises funds through events, programs, and donations. The foundation further encourages the entertainment industry to create their own events and programs in support of their charity. So, what Behind the Scenes does, let's say you're a rigger or you're a scenic artist. Something happens to you. Behind the Scenes will help step in to take care of rent, mortgages, or your utilities, doctors, prescriptions, physical therapy, health, homeowners, automobile insurance, car repairs, ride-sharing services, therapy, inpatient, outpatient rehab, and, of course, funerals. And the thing that's nice about Behind the Scenes is we can support this organization and not feel the hit in any way. You can simply go to Amazon Smile. And if you've never used that, Amazon Smile has a list of about 1,000 charities there. So you can select as many as you want to. So I went in and selected Behind the Scenes Foundation. So every time I make a purchase on Amazon, about a penny per dollar goes to that organization. It's money I'm already spending. Amazon's simply donating it to us.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, what we did here at SMU is we set up our Amazon account to go directly to Behind the Scenes. We're all going to be there someday that we may need some help. And Behind the Scenes is doing some pretty interesting work for our backstage brothers and sisters. You can find it online, www.btshelp.org. behind the scenes.
I did know about this organization, and one thing that I have two things from them when I donated. One is they were selling, I don't know if they still are, ghost lights. And we bought a ghost light from them for our theater so that we have a behind-the-scenes ghost light on the stage all the time. And then they have a little USB ghost lights that you can plug into your computer for work light, at the tech table. And I've got one of those as well. So, yeah, it's a great organization, and everybody should support it as best they can.
So, Steve has our first listener question.
Yes, and this is a question I've been waiting for all my life. John in South Africa writes, why are Americans obsessed with saying thank you? As a stage manager, whenever I address the group with a statement, everyone starts yelling thank you. I get it when I say 5 minutes or places, but we're back from break.
Thank you, break.
Or we're starting on page 5.
Thank you, we're starting on page 5.
Or notes.
Notes, thank you.
Must you repeat my statement also?
Repeat my statement also. Thank you.
Yeah,
repeat my statement.
That's sort of new, isn't it? It's sort of a new
it started,
phenomenon.
First of all, you don't hear it in the profession, at least I don't. Okay. Sometimes you do, but most of the time you don't. But in schools, because I think, theater's such a communal, thing, and especially in schools, that it's sort of respectful, I think, shows respect to the stage manager and to the whole tech crew, I think. So I don't know if I don't like it. I don't know what to say about it, to tell you the truth.
I was taught that the reason we did it was not, and maybe Steve has this answer too, it was not an obsession with politeness. It was more of the idea that, well, at least my stage management teacher, who was a Broadway guy, the theater's a big place. It's a large, voluminous, environment. And it was a way to acknowledge that you heard what the stage manager said. So it was sort of like 10-4. It's like, yeah, copy that. Like, thank you means I heard it. So, but now that it's like thank you after everything is a relatively new phenomenon for me.
It's the damn millennials. I think people want to hear themselves speak. Right. As a stage manager goes by and knocks on the door and says 5 minutes or places, people generally say thank you. But I never heard them say thank you places or thank you 5 minutes. I would hear thank you. Occasionally I would hear that. But man, you are right. It's killing me. It's like Followspot. If you need to go pee, go pee. Thank you. Followspot needs to go pee. I mean,
I'm peeing now.
What is it? I have been there. We're about to.
We're the Curmudgeon brothers.
We're about to start the production meeting. Thank you, production meeting. What is that? So
people oh my God, is it that bad?
Yes.
Wow.
It's epidemic. People, I think people hear it and they start expanding on it. I don't know. I'm with you. I'm with you, John. Just every time, I tell you what to do. Every time someone says thank you, see if you can come up with something really absurd. Just really absurd. It's like, take your shoes off. Thank you. Take your shoes off.
Thank you, shoes.
Eventually, you will break
feet.
them with it. I think it is good to acknowledge a standby. It's good, for the curtain man to say, or curtain woman,
Sure.
I am here. I'm standing by. But also, I think when you start repeating everything back, as John is pointing out, it kills a lot of time. And also, you start going, did everybody hear me? Because now I'm hearing like 17 little individual voices all over the theater, like whack-a-mole, saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I don't know.
I don't know either. I'd rather them err on the side of over-politeness or over-acknowledgement than not even paying attention to you. You know what I mean? So there needs to be a middle ground. I totally agree, Steve. But I don't know. At least people are happy. I think they're happy. They're not saying, screw you. Screw you 5 minutes. I'm not ready.
That's the upside. David is taking the upside of it.
I'm gonna be the optimist today because I'm
He's
always
on the sunny side of the street.
I'm on the sunny side of the street, baby.
That's
right.
Screw you 5 minutes till places.
You could do both, and then you're sort of bipolar with the thank yous and the screw yous, and everything's okay. Okay, great. So hey, Sally in Chicago writes, David, you do a lot of musicals and operas. What do you look for in a follow spot? Carbon arc, xenon, LED? And what about remote controlled? How do I track a follow spot? Well, I look for anything in Followspots and everything. It depends. It depends
He's
on
just
the
happy
show.
to have one.
You know, if you're doing some real subtle work and you're not in a huge theater, like let's say your Followspot is coming from the second beam or something like that, maybe 40 feet away or 50 feet away, you know, you get away with a source 4, 14-degree source 4, you know, and a source 4 LED, as a matter of fact. Don't even go with the original. Go with an LED because you can actually tune the color. You don't have to put gel frames in and out when you want to change the color. The source 4 LEDs, I use those a lot. I really do in smaller theaters and smaller, you know, venues. The 14-degree source 4 works really well. I've used xenons. I've used carbon arcs, although you don't see much more carbon arc anymore. Matter of fact, I haven't seen a carbon arc in, 30, 40 years, to tell you the truth. But yeah, I use a lot of those lights. Remote controlled, absolutely. Really cool stuff. I think Stan has a unit that he's been testing right now. He'll talk about it, I'm sure. And tracking Followspots the same way we did it back in the 70s and 80s. You know, if you have 2 Followspots, you take a sheet of paper, you draw a line down the middle, and on the left you put spot 1, on the right put spot 2, and then you put the cue numbers going down the left-hand side, and you basically say what each spot is doing, who they're picking up, what type of pickup it is, what the beam size is, and what the color is. If you have 3 spots, you just make it turn into 3 columns. That's how I track Followspots. Very, very simple. It's the old-fashioned way. So, Stan, you guys have, aren't you using some sort of remote control Followspot now?
Yeah, and before I get to that, let me backtrack. And this is a nice sort of rebound on Steve's point about the charity. So we stumbled into something. Talk about tracking Followspots, David, and I do it the way you did it. But there is a new method that we've been using the last 2 or 3 years at the university, which is a charity, or I think it's Rob Halliday who makes it, called Spot Track, which is basically a customized spreadsheet that he's developed, and you pay like $40 for the show. You register the show, you get the software, and he donates all the money to a charity. It might even go to Backstage Cares. I'm not sure. So I would take a look at Spot Track if you're interested in what's sort of new in terms of spot tracking. And my students seem to like it. They would like to have it a little bit more customizable because it does certain things on its own, but it lays it out, it prints it for you. Take a look at Spot Track. You can just Google it, Spot Track, Followspot tracking software. On the remote controlled Followspot world for us, we did just finish a production where we, at Steve's suggestion actually, because Steve had mentioned that he thought the RoboSpots were pretty good and they were out in a lot of rental houses, and indeed they were. We have a situation where we really can't send students into this position where we have old school Followspots. The students made a complaint and they're correct about it, about the safety. And so until we have an architectural solution, we're going to have to either rent or buy these things. So we tested the RoboSpots with the BMFL on this show. We put the guys up on pin rail backstage with their screens and 2 BMFLs out front. They looked gorgeous. The students' feedback was that the one problem they had was that if the actor or the dancer made a very sort of, let's say, a deliberate move and they tried to track them, they couldn't stop the light like you could with your body if you were running a Followspot. So they had to kind of get used to that. That took them a while, but they did like it. We did, of course, have a technical problem, but I have a good story from this. We had 2 of them were sending error codes, and they were saying on the screens, shut down immediately. There's an overheat fan problem, which I didn't necessarily trust that. We called called Roby, and there was an error. So we bypassed the error. They didn't shut down. They did work. We had to get on a Saturday morning, the folks from Christie Lights, not where we rented them from. We rented them from Magnum in Atlanta. Christie Lights drove a spare unit up to us. And then Roby was on the phone with us on the weekend with the guy's cell phone. Fantastic support, shipping us parts to change out a circuit board where the sensor is, and as well as one of the motors, the servo motors, was gone, was shot. And I was able to change it with him talking me through it. So I did surgery on one. But I guess the point of the story is they worked well. They were certainly safer. The color The gal who did Followspot design was able to match color to flesh tone beautifully with those BMFLs. They were way brighter than we needed. And I think, but they worked great. It's a beautiful light. And in the system, I would say, with some small, very, very critical things, but I think they were really good. And I really want to test them with their T1 fixture, which I'm curious about because the light engine in that, I did some research on that, and I think I posted it on our Facebook page, is a 12 frequency LED engine, so 12 LEDs. So it must have fantastic rendering. I don't know if either of you guys have used that.
I'm using it now in Palermo. I'm using 8 of them.
But you haven't seen
no,
it yet.
I'll see them like in a few days.
Looking forward to the report.
Yeah. I'm using there are 8 front of house that I'm using, and I'm using 19 BMFLs. And I love the BMFL. I've used them many times in Chicago. Chicago's filled with BMFLs, but that is a great light. So yeah, I would think that the BMFL would be overkill for your space, Stan.
Yeah, I think we set a high. I think the lady who was doing the Followspot design, a very smart undergraduate, when she actually went through the show, she decided to set our full at 40%.
That's wise.
And so we never really went above 40. But she really did enjoy tuning the color and then recording those presets into it. And the guys the first year grad students ran them. And we had a little Facebook Live with the president of UF who came back to see them, and they really got a kick out of that. So it was. I would say, other than the glitches that we had at the beginning, it was successful. But I'm happy to say that the support from both Magnum out of Atlanta, I want to shout out, and also Roby as the manufacturer, the support was excellent.
That's great. Hey, Steve, how about you? How about you with Followspots? You still using carbon arcs?
No, we retired those. We have 4 Source 4s out in the front of the house in the Bob Hope. And we're looking at that Roby fixture.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I'll tell you guys what I think. I'll know in a few days.
I have the next question from George in Sweden. Oh, I like Sweden. I'm having trouble learning the hog. We just bought one, and I'm trying to teach myself. Any suggestions? You know, I have to say, I had trouble learning the hog too. And I got it. And I wouldn't even say that I know the hog with capital K. But we got one, oh my God, it's got to be like over 10 years ago, a Hog 3 PC with programming wings, the beautiful blue ones with the aluminum dials. And I didn't have visualization. And I just sat with that thing with the manual, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So it was, but once I got a visualizer, everything came into focus. So I would say, 1, get some kind of a visualizer, then sit with the manual, and then teach yourself the hog. But beyond that, nowadays, thanks to YouTube, there is a hog YouTube channel, and they've got fantastic videos that you can just go through. And so I wouldn't try and do it yourself. I would look to the people who know it. They're generous. They've shared their knowledge. And they're also very generous depending upon where you are. They've come to our school and shipped consoles and did a whole 3-day intensive for us with certified training. So I think you can also go to high end. You can also get hog training at LDI. So there's a lot of ways to do it. But I can see why you'd be having trouble because the interface is all, it's text and boxes and squares, and you don't know if you're doing it right. So you really need or plug a light in, right? So you can see what you're doing. That's what I did. And visualizer, videos, and if you can, go get training from them directly.
I went through hog training at the LA office of ETC, and it was fantastic. It was a 2-day intensive training class, and there were 4 of us, and it was worth it. I mean, I think they charge $200, which is nothing, which is ridiculously inexpensive, and you will come out a hog programmer after spending 2 intensive days. That's the best way. But again, you're in Sweden. I don't know where the closest training would be for you, but it's got to be hands-on, and I would suggest a full console, not a hog PC or something like that, just because it's a lot easier to get around a full console than it is to try to have multifunction keys. Things like there are enough multifunction keys on a hog. You don't need any more.
Well, it sounds like he says he has a hog, right? So, yeah, we don't know what he has. But, back in the day, I'm saying 10 years ago, I only had a PC with the programming wings. And now we have we don't have a full-blown thing, but we have a Hedgehog, and we have those programming wings. So it works pretty well. Well, in case you didn't know, you are listening to Light Talk with the Lumen Brothers. And Light Talk is sponsored by
Whamit Corporation. Have directors suddenly stopped calling you? Are they now hiring younger, more virile lighting designers instead of old geezers like you? Are there no more projects on your calendar? Well, don't just sit there feeling sorry for yourself. It's time to take action. From the makers of Drone Focus Deluxe, Whamit Corporation, comes our latest product using good old-fashioned 1950s subliminal projection technology. Whamit's new Persuasion Content Creator. Persuasion Content Creator. How does it work? Well, just plug in our super dongle into the USB port on the media server and sit back and enjoy. Persuasion Content Creator subtly projects subliminal messages that you create into the show's video content. Persuasion Content Creator delivers its messages to anyone watching the stage, including the director. These images appear for only a few thousandths of a second, short enough not to be consciously recognized, but long enough for the brain to perceive them. These images will leave a powerful and long-lasting impression on the psyche of the viewer. These messages include, David is brilliant. Stan is sexy and clever. Ask Steve to design all your productions from now on. Fire all other lighting designers and hire Ann. And our favorite, buy Brackley a drink. Your career will be instantly resuscitated from sure death. You may also notice increased romantic interest from the rest of the artistic staff. Persuasion Content Creator works with any projection device and media server. And if you work in opera, Persuasion Content Creator can project these subliminal messages on top of the supertitles. You can even send messages for the audience to replenish your retirement fund. Haha, just kidding, of course. Persuasion Content Creator is also great for projection designers, concession managers, and artistic directors. Imagine the reviews. So send those haughty Broadway lighting designers back to the soup line where they belong. Save your career and at the same time improve your love life with Whamit's new Persuasion Content Creator.
And now, back to Light Talk.
Well, the sound of those ducks in the background tells us that it's time for our ever-popular segment, Let's Talk About. And today we are going to talk about a new product from Rosco called MixBook, the world's first digital swatch book. Now, this product looks very cool and couldn't come at a better time for Rosco, whose gel products are becoming obsolete. So Stan, why don't you tell us a little bit about what MixBook does?
Yeah, so it looks like this product is a little handheld projector that just uses an array of LEDs and generates the color by the LEDs, and then it connects to an app through Bluetooth on your phone that gives you a color picker. So that's really pretty great. And I noticed that it uses the 1931 CIE color space, which some would say is not as accurate to human vision, and the 1976 color space is more akin to the human color system. But it's pretty cool. I think that's where we're all heading. And I love the idea that you get the XY data so that you could actually plug that XY data into your board. I don't know, people may not know that, but like in EOS, if you go to the color picker, there are two bars right below the color picker, and by sliding them, they will give you the absolute XY numeric value, and then you have the intensity slider as well. So it sounds like it sounds like a product whose time has come. I think we all need it, and it also means all of my classic Gelatran swatch books just went up in collector value.
The thing about the MixBook is that it allows you to audition color.
Right.
So what happens now is you can take a look at gel, you can take a look at LED, you can take a look at what's happening to color when you use an HMI. You can take a look at what's happening when you're using color with a tungsten. So this is a whole process, I think, for cinematographers and photographers. You know, this product was developed I think by DMG. And I believe DMG and Rosco are effectively the same company these days. So what you have here all of a sudden is a gel picker in your pocket. And this means that I can go and I can take the Mona Lisa, and I can take a photograph of the Mona Lisa, send that into the MixBook and say, how can I get that color? And it will try to make that color for me and tell me what color I need to get that color on stage. So it also does color matching to your swatch books and how to transfer that into LED, or what you're going to have to do if you're using an HMI or a tungsten lamp. Has three settings on it. And this is probably where the weak link in it right now. But I suspect Rosco is going to do a firmware update pretty fast. So when you're using the MixBook, it's either 100%, 50%, or off. And so that's a little bit of a problem right now for color mixing. But this is, I think this ability to store all this information on the cloud and pull it down when you need it, and you have this virtual library that you're building for, future reference, this is going to be a pretty powerful tool. I'm not sure what it's selling for, but the Scuttlebutt is $99.
Wow, that's cheap.
But
for what it is.
Don't hold me to that. That could be what that is, Scuttlebutt. But I bet you Rosco will have a few at their booth at LDI.
This is fantastic because the three of us come from a different generation, long before LEDs and, and moving lights too, let's be honest. So this is a whole new way of mixing color. And you have to think of mixing color differently in LED because it's additive mixing. It's not subtractive mixing, because even when you put like a dichroic filter in front of a moving light, that's really subtractive mixing. So whenever we're sitting in the theater and we're trying to get a color in LED, we're like saying, okay, give me an R64, and then you get something that may be within 20% of an R64. Then you have to start calling out colors, like add a little more magenta, add a little, little less cyan. You start tuning colors that way, but you're doing it opposite of how you would do it with a moving light. So this would be great to be able to pre-visualize what the color will actually be, and then send that information to the console so that all your LEDs from stage left will be coming in at the color you want it to be coming instead of mixing it. I think that's really, really a cool thing. It's also, I can see it as a really cool teaching device as well.
For the people who haven't seen MixBook, it looks like a little travel flashlight. It looks like a little rectangular flashlight that has, about a 1-inch by 2-inch lens on the front.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's true that we have to think about mixing color completely differently than the way we grew up. And I was going to say that, just to be a fly in the ointment. So I don't know whose LEDs they're using in the MixBook. I don't know how that translates, because all LEDs are not made the same. I like the idea. I just thought about this as you were talking, of your color palette becomes yours. In other words, the things that you make are sort of custom to you. David's palette, Steve's palette, Stan's palette that you sort of carry around in your suitcase, and they're yours. That's something kind of cool about that, as opposed to we're all working from the same swatch book, so to speak, and how you combine things. So there's certain uniqueness about that. But I do think there's going to be some issues about what is the reference source, right? Because in order to have consistency across, lots of people make LEDs and lots of people make fixtures, and so that's a big industry-wide issue. So I think this begins to sort of open the door into those thorny problems that we're going to have. But I think it's a great step. So I didn't know about it until yesterday. So I'm happy to hear about it. I have to look into it deeply, because Steve was saying you could sort of translate if you're using an HMI or a tungsten and with gels, and so how you make. But really, the science of the precision of getting a color to match mathematically is one thing, but everything changes when colors are put up against each other, and you're lighting an object and the human perception, and that can't be done with math, I don't think.
Well, the thing is, you're going to be able to essentially previs before you go into a film shoot. You can start looking at what it's going to look like before you commit time and energy to the setup. So I think cinematographers and photographers are going to love this thing.
I would bet that there's a way that you can match up different lights, that there are different calibrations for different types of fixtures. I would hope that's the case. But I guess we'll see. Hey, I think it's a great product. If it's only $99, I'm buying 2 of them.
You're getting one for all? You're buying one for Steve and I, right, as gifts?
No. That'd be our swag. We'll give one to everyone who comes to our show. So, guys, when you come to our show, I will be there, but just ask Stan and Steve and Ann for your own special MixBook.
With a Light Talk logo on it.
All right. So Steve has our last question of the day.
And it comes from Jeff in West Virginia, and he wants to know, where can I find carbons for the Strong Super Trooper?
I know. In my office, I have a box.
Oh, my God.
I do. We have a Super Trooper in the lobby on display, an old one.
I did a little research on this, and I can't promise you it's true, but what I think I found is you're going to need a 7mm 12-inch Subtractive carbon for the front, which is a positive DC, and a 6mm 9-inch Orteo carbon for the rear. That's the negative. And I did find a source for them. I was surprised about this. It's called cinemacarbons.com. I didn't track prices, but they had all kinds of carbons for theatrical use. Back in the day, they used to be about $50 a box. So I would say that's probably a safe guess.
Well, you can have mine for $100.
Call them up. Call them up and say, this is what I have. So you're sure. So don't take my measurements to be gospel. Call up Cinema Carbons and say, hey, this is what I have.
So there are two different carbons, one for the front and one for the back. Yeah. I didn't know that.
A skinny one and a fat one.
But the skinny one is the one that burns, right? The long one. I think the long one burns
that's interesting.
About 50. I had heard, I don't know if this is true, here's an old wives' tale, that I had heard somewhere, or I read, and this could be wrong, that carbons ran about 50 minutes. And so that's why acts of plays, people tried to keep them to 50 minutes so the carbons could be changed. Have you guys ever heard that? Have you ever heard that?
Bring back the carbon arc spotlight, please. I'm tired of sitting for an hour and 40 minutes in a theater without a break. I am just tired of it. I think the whole show shouldn't last more than 45 minutes.
There you go.
Give me a 25-minute act one and a 20-minute act two. We're out of there. I heard
it was that and bathroom breaks, but it was the carbon arc length had something to do with how long an act could run. I don't know if that's true, but I heard it somewhere.
The other thing, Jeff, is I'm suspecting that you're in this theater and you found a couple carbon arc Followspots and you want to crank them up and see what happens. If indeed they work, pro tip, take a few spare carbons and lay them in the back of the carbon underneath the rods that are firing, and that way you will dry those rods out. You'll get rid of all moisture in them, and that's just a handy place to have your spares so they're warm and dry when you put them in.
And here's another pro tip. Make sure you vent those suckers because you'll probably asphyxiate the entire audience if you don't.
I did a site survey of the Municipal Auditorium in Charleston, West Virginia many years ago to do a renovation. And I went up to the booth, and there was a line of discarded carbon arcs. There was like 6 of them in a row. That, like, as they were no longer good, they just kind of pushed them out of the way and kept. And they had modern Followspots, but they kept this, like, basically boneyard of carbon arc Followspots. Interesting.
They're going the way of the dodo bird. Oh, they are. They're done. Don't.
There used to be a product.
They're dangerous. They're dangerous. There's like live electricity happening in those suckers.
Let me ask you this. There was a product out there, or maybe Steve will remember, for film. It was called the Lightning Strike, which was basically a carbon arc in a box. And you would just it would bring the carbons together, and you would get this incredible flash, and you get the brightest lightning you could get. I wonder if that still exists.
Hey, you know something? Josh White told us in that interview that he just had a welder back there behind the projection screen, striking the damn carbons. So
that's
don't even
essentially
need a box.
what this is. Yeah, that's what this.
We can't have things like that anymore.
No,
we can't just pour gas on the floor and light it. OSHA screwed that for everybody.
I know. Damn, I like the gas on the floor effect. By the way, it's really great. You got to run really fast, though. Hey, guys, that Hammond organ solo in the background tells us that once again, you've spent another morning listening to us on Light Talk. Check out our website on lighttalk.org for future guests, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk fun.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast.
And, of course, if you choose to litigate us, the law firm of Fleck, Flock, Flair, and Glare and their paralegal Snoot will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, and the Republic of Texas.
And tune in next week when we present our live show at LDI. It'll be Brackley, Steve, Stan, and Ann. I will be in Palermo, so I won't see you. But you guys have a great time. It's Saturday at 4:30. And the show will be broadcast on Sunday.
And all of that, and a new sponsor.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you next Saturday afternoon at LDI. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Toodles.
Bye-bye, everybody. Light Talk.